Hello, I'm Chris Kilby, a pastor in a pergola, and here's today's bite-sized Bible from 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3. So Paul has introduced himself as the writer to the letter. Timothy, his son in the faith, is the recipient, and he's greeted him with the Holy Trinity of words, grace, mercy, and peace. And then he gives his first instruction to Timothy. He says, stay there in Ephesus. You know, when I was growing up, I liked the punk rock band in the 1970s called The Clash. And in 1982, they released a single called Should I Stay or Should I Go Now? Now, that's the question that many of us will ask, and that's the question that Paul was giving to Timothy to consider. But he didn't give it to him as a question, he gave it to him as an instruction. He said to him, stay there in Ephesus. But for many of us, should we stay or should we go is a question we will often ask. Whether that's our job situation, should we stay in this job or go? Whether that's a house move or a move of location, should we be in another place? Whether that's a relationship, is this the right relationship for me? Should I be moving on from this relationship? Or whether that's a church role or ministry. How do we know whether we should stay or whether we should go? Well, Timothy had a Paul. And Paul said to Timothy, stay. And when someone in authority says to you, stay, it's good to honour that authority and to stay. You know, I moved to Southampton some 14 years ago now. And I came because somebody with apostolic gifting said, I would love to have a church in Southampton. So I took that as a command and I said, we will help, we will play our part. And we moved our family to plant the church here in Southampton. So we had a clear guide. But it's not always that easy to know how and when we should stay and when we should go. So I'm going to give you a handful, 5 pointers to help you to know whether you should stay or go, and hopefully it will guide you as well. Point number 1, is what you're doing bearing fruit? If it is, stay. If you've still got work to do, stay. If it's still actively advancing the gospel, stay. Secondly, do you find grace for it? By that I mean, is it something that seems good to you and the Holy Spirit? Is it something that others commend you for doing it? Is it something where your gifts are being used well? If it is, stay. If it's not, maybe it's time to go. Thirdly, what do others say about you in the situation you're currently in? You see, a wise man has many advisors or counsellors, Proverbs tells us. So if other people are saying that what you're doing is great and they love to see the grace of God on you in that role, then stay. If not, perhaps that's a pointer that you should lay it down and change. Fourthly, is what you're doing honouring God? If you're being faithful and loving and it's bringing honour to God and it's bringing glory to Him, even though it might sometimes be painful, perhaps you're called to stay. But if it's not, and if your attitudes aren't honouring God, then maybe it's time to move on. And fifthly and finally, are you being obedient to God? If God has called you to it, stay. But if God has called you out, go. I'm Chris Kilby, a pastor in a pergola, and that's today's bite-sized Bible from 1 Timothy 1, verse 3. I look forward to seeing you next time.